so excited to have Jen Weaver on the podcast for the second time. Welcome, Jen.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, and since we last recorded, we've actually met in person, which is unusual. Most of the people that I have had on the podcast, I have never met in person. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that's your what do you call it? I was going to say spoiler alert. That's your like little hang in there and keep listening so you can hear
Yeah,
how
yeah.
we met. But first, can you just give a quick intro, like where do you live and what is your relationship to arthritis?
Oh, okay. So I live in a little town called Kalama, Washington. It's
Yay.
actually Hawaiian, and that's my fun fact
I didn't know
is
that.
yeah, it's Hawaiian. It's named after I don't know was he a king? Was he a chief?
Oh, yeah.
Kalama. And so that's my fun fact. We do a lot of Hawaiian events down here. I love it. It's super fun. But for those that are not familiar with where I am,
Yeah.
I am south of you, south of Seattle, north of Portland. So
Nice.
yeah,
Yeah. Somewhere between Seattle and Portland. Yeah. So we're both in
yeah,
Washington State. Yeah. And
yeah,
I know,
yeah.
on the previous episode we had you on, you shared a lot about, your diagnosis story, and unfortunate experiences you've had with medication side effects. And I know that's a long story, but just for anyone who maybe hasn't listened to that episode, number 98, how to find your new normal with rheumatoid arthritis. If they haven't listened, maybe just can you give a little synopsis of your diagnosis story?
Yeah, absolutely. So the quick version is around 2010 and 11, I was having some issues with my left knee, and it started out with just the one thing. But it progressively got worse. And eventually in 2012, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. And along that fun route, I had some allergic reactions, one of them being the most extreme, and that was an allergic reaction to the TNF inhibitors. I no longer can have them. It caused me to get a pustular psoriasis effect, which I now live with, and it's a lot of fun. Just kidding. It's not fun. But if you don't want to look at something nasty, do not Google pustular psoriasis. But if you're into that kind of weird stuff, go ahead, have fun.
Yeah.
And so that happened in 2017. It's been kind of a long, fun journey. And, you know, I wouldn't change a thing. And I know that's crazy to say, but I would not change a thing because it's made me who I am today. And I think it's made me just a better person and a better friend, better support system.
Mm.
And hello, it's brought me people like you into my life.
Yeah.
I've met so many amazing people, and none of that would have happened without it. So that's my quick version.
Wow. No, that's really powerful. And I mean, I struggle with that question. Like, would you, if you could choose to go back and like not have, your medical experiences, would you? It's such a complicated question, to answer, but I could definitely love like acknowledging and feeling gratitude for all the positives that it has been, has brought to my life, like people like you and our other connections we've made in the Spoonie community, which if you're very newly diagnosed, Spoonies is kind of like a term for other chronic illness warriors, from Christine Meserano's lupus inspired the spoon theory. So highly recommend checking that out. But before we get into our main topic of the day, I would love to hear, what's a typical day in the life for you managing your conditions?
Wow, that's a big
And
question.
yeah, and or just typical day. I mean, yeah, someone asked me that the other day, and I was like, I have a hard time answering that, but I thought that's something that a lot of newly diagnosed people want to know. It's like, what is a typical day in life, if there is a typical?
Absolutely. And I think, there was a point where I was asking the same thing because, when you're newly diagnosed, you look at people like you look at people like me, and you think, wow, you are so optimistic, you're so put together. How do I get there? What's your secret? And the secret is there's not really a secret. It's a
Mhm.
lot of time, honestly. It's working with our doctors to find the right treatment plan that works for us, and for so many of us, it's different. What works for you is not going to work for me, and what works for me might not work for you either. So, it's taking that time to hone down what is going to work best for me. But it's also learning our bodies. And I think for
Mhm.
me, that took years to learn what kind of things I need to avoid and what kind of things are great for me. Because pre-diagnosis, I wanted to be on a roller derby team.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so looking at that now, it's like, wow, that was a pipe dream. That was crazy. I don't know what I was thinking. But a day in the life of me where I am now, it's having that combination that's working well for me. It's waking up in the morning at a time that I prefer.
Mhm.
Because sleep is medicine, movement is medicine. Those are two things that are big for me. And if I don't get enough sleep, you're not going to like me that day.
Oh
Uh,
my gosh. Oh, I have my Sleep Diva mug I printed for myself. It just says Sleep Diva, interrupt at your own risk. And
oh,
when
I love that.
I tried to set up an Etsy store and then I got all very overwhelmed and ignored it. So anyway, but yeah, yeah, I resonate with that a lot. Sleep and mood
Yeah,
are huge.
they're really important, and I think I foolish they were going to give me a medication and then I was going to wake up and feel like me again. It doesn't
Mhm.
work that way.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Some
work that way.
some people get that, but a
The
lot.
lucky few.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
The lucky few. But I probably feel like I'm the closest to remission I possibly could be in right now. So most people don't even realize I'm sick, and that's cool. I'm okay with that. But I do need plenty of sleep. And then I need to make sure I'm moving. If I'm not moving, I'm going to be more sore. I'm going to be more cranky and more miserable. And so making sure that I'm implementing those into my day every single day, along with my supplements and self-care, that's definitely a big day in the life of me. But, my kids are grown, and so, don't have to get kids off to school anymore, so it's kind of getting up whenever I feel like it, checking emails, checking in on Instagram.
I was gonna
Um
say that's a lot. You're so productive on social media. Again, I know we only see that's my perception looking in from the outside, that and that is an important in occupational therapy. We are obsessed with just calling everything occupations. We call them meaningful activities. And so that is one of your, it seems, meaningful activities is connecting with others through social media.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of it came from feeling scared and alone in the beginning of my journey because I had so many friends that did not understand what was going on with me whatsoever.
Yeah.
And so I never wanted people to feel the way I was feeling. And so I'm big on community and connection.
Yeah.
And so, you know, as I go on with my day, I sit down and I work on some content ideas when they come to me. And a lot of it comes at night. I'm sitting down
Yeah.
relaxing with my mother-in-law and we're watching a show together and I'm over there. I'm on Canva and designing and coming up with
Mhm. Mhm.
whatever comes my way, and so,
Yeah.
yeah, I I guess that was my long-winded version of a day in
It's
the
not,
life of
no.
me.
That's not, and I was just, you know, reflecting as you were talking about, the importance of social connectedness and the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, which is a really fantastic, I'll put a link to it in the show notes. It's a multidisciplinary, um, association, kinda like American College of Rheumatology is Association for Rheumatology Health Professionals, and the ARP, is for like non physician practitioners. The Lifestyle Medicine, American College of Lifestyle Medicine, also ACLM, they are extremely multidisciplinary. There's physical therapists, occupational therapists, nurses, health coaches, personal trainers, doctors in every specialty that might see people for whom lifestyle interventions, like you mentioned, movement, sleep, and stress management, and interestingly, so they have these 6 pillars. This was gonna relate exactly to what you were saying about social connections on social media. The 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine include positive social connections. So these are considered one of the most important 6 most important things along with, whole food, plant predominant eating pattern. Again, this is gonna be a little bit customized to each individual person for sure. Nutrition is very variable. So nutrition, physical activity, sleep, stress management, avoidance of risky substances, that's just on there, and positive social connections. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of goes without saying, but actually, want to recognize that that's not going to help people's chronic illness. And so, you know, I just think it's that your day in your life really touches on a lot of those things, you know? So kudos to you.
Absolutely.
Approved
Thank
by the
you.
American College of Lifestyle I'm a member of it. I don't do a lot other than just read the stuff that they put out. And it's great. So thank you. Thank you for answering that question. I think it's hard to summarize. But yeah, speaking of official organizations, you and I got to meet in Denver in
Yeah.
the end of May or middle May of May for the rheumatology investigators meeting through the American oh no, Found Rheumatology Research Foundation. Okay. I was like, I'm gonna
Yes.
say something wrong. I have too many acronyms in my head. Yeah.
Well, and it's such a mouthful too.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I would love to know, like, how did you initially become involved in the Rheumatology Research Foundation?
Okay, yeah. So I think it was about 2 years ago, maybe longer, when I was sort of newer in the Instagram realm of the Spoonie life.
Mhm.
And whoever runs their socials over there reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to be a room champion. And I was sure. Okay, what does that mean? Please tell me more. And they kind of gave me the rundown about what their mission is with it. And I was like, yes, that's me. Totally. I'm game. And
Mhm.
yeah, so that's how it first started. And then, like you a couple months ago, received an email with the invite to go to this for the first time. They've included patients, and that
Mm.
was just so exciting. I was thrilled to meet you in person, and of
Yes.
course the others as well, our little tribe. It was amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it was great. They invited 5 or 6 actually, because they had a few last minute, right, people,
Mhm.
that they invited, and, I do wanna say that if anyone wants to become what's called like, they have an official program called Room Champions, it simply is, the only requirement to become part of this overall kind of community is to "apply," quote, unquote, and it's the point of it is to amplify voices of patients and caregivers and let others know they're not alone. And when you join the foundation, I'm reading from the website, may occasionally share or repost your content with permission and reach out to you about speaking about your journey with the media. So this is just for anyone who's wanting like a baby step towards becoming more involved and sharing your story more publicly. Once you share, and it's just a really quick 5-minute application form, they can then will follow up with you and share your story on the Rheumatology Research Foundation site. So yeah, I also got contacted on social media, and when they invited me to the research investigators meeting, I was like, what is an investigator meeting? Even though I've been
I
so
know,
involved,
right?
like and oh, I should say really quick, the Rheumatology Research Foundation, it's like affiliated with the American College of Rheumatology. Um, and that's the official professional association for the rheumatologist doctors and rheumatology health providers. So the whole goal of it is just to advance patient care, and
Mhm.
part of that is through research, that's in the name, but also part of it is through addressing the workforce shortage, which a lot of patients, if you're listening, if you've had a long wait time to see a rheumatologist, or you live in a rural area that doesn't have a rheumatologist, that's part of the issue that they're trying to solve through giving grants and funding to fellows. But the investigator meeting was for all the people who they've given grants to for research to give updates on their research. So, what were just some of the highlights to you? I mean, there was so much information. I felt like I was drinking from a fire hose. Like,
Yes, yes, and I wanna tell people too, it was kind of funny, we both had our laptops up and we're working on things, we're taking all these
yeah.
notes and taking pictures of slides and trying to find out what we can share, and
Yes, yes.
it was so exciting, and I felt like I couldn't soak in enough. Some of it went over my head,
Yeah.
but it was just exciting because they truly care. They wanna help.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, and so okay, I pulled up the page that I think meant the most to me, and it was talking about cholesterol because that is an issue for me, and I've had to go to the lipid clinic in Portland, and we're trying to figure out why the medications aren't working to lower my cholesterol. And so it's interesting hearing them talk about it and the oxidative stress and the HDL or complex particles and
Mhm, mhm.
do you remember this one? And talking
Yes.
about pawn one and Yeah, I'm looking over it now and I'm like, okay, some of this makes sense, but they're looking at targeted therapy.
Yeah.
And I love that. And they had that for lupus, they had that for RA, they had one for osteo. I mean, they're really trying hard to come up with these targeted therapies that are really gonna help us that much more.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was, I think, one of my takeaways. I'm looking at my own post that I made, to be honest, because I can't remember them off the top of my head, but was that, that research is a long like research is not a short, quick thing. There are no simple answers in rheumatology. So learning that, sometimes um, researchers put all this work and years into something and they discover that their hypothesis wasn't correct. And that's sometimes just as important to know or to understand as when their hypothesis, was correct. Cause then, okay, well, let's not waste our time going down this road. One of the things I thought I really resonate with one talk from Dr. Betty. So I think her name might be pronounced so from Yale. She talked about using tailored patient videos to overcome barriers
Mhm.
to treat to target. Now, this was like music to my ears because that's what I do most of the time is using videos, for social media videos, specifically for patient education. And basically, the takeaway was that patients, when they're making medication decisions and general health related decisions in the year 2023, 2024, they want to learn not only from their doctor and registered health providers, but they want to learn from other patients. And it was almost therapeutic hearing her like respect the patient voice so much and not, I
Mhm.
think a lot of doctors have said, oh, the patients just want to go on social media and like they're going to get all this misinformation and they hear all these bad things. It's like, wait a minute, let's take the fact that patients have a desire as human beings to learn from another human being who's been there. And let's then, she's literally at an Ivy League school, right? So she's like the highest center for learning and say, we're going to examine that need and explore it in like we're going to respect that that's how human nature is, and that no matter how good your doctor is, they're not going to take the place of another patient's voice. But let's curate patient stories to make sure that they're accurate and not misleading and present that to the patients. Sorry, I just going on
No,
tangent, but yeah.
I was so excited about that one too, and I was like, "Okay, can I raise my hand? Like, can
Yeah.
we be part of this, please?" It's exciting, and it's true because a lot of newly diagnosed people now that's what they're doing. They're going to social media and they're looking for these people that have lived the life that they're now looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
because yes, our rheumatologists, our doctors, our care team, they can give us all this information and they can help us, but they're not the ones living it. And so at the end of the day, it's we're not bashing on them. We need them, but we also like talking to people that live it and feel it and understand it.
Yeah, 100%. There was some, yeah, the event covered certain topics that were like really detailed. Like one of them that I was fascinated by, but I
Mhm.
didn't understand all of it was like circulating monocytes may contribute to, or transcriptional profiles of circulating monocytes and their association with pain centralization and DMARD response in rheumatoid arthritis, which centralized pain is something we've talked about on the podcast before, but just in case you haven't heard the episodes, that's when if you might have a rheumatic disease and ongoing inflammation, like from rheumatoid arthritis, and the pain you're experiencing might partially be or completely be from that active inflammation. Centralized
Mhm.
pain is when there is no active, known, or visible like process that's going on in the site at which you're feeling pain, but your brain is interpreting pain nonetheless. So it's real. It's not quote unquote all in your head, but they're trying to figure out how do we distinguish in a person who has potentially ongoing inflammation and pain? How much is the pain of that pain is from that inflammation versus centralized pain? So this is one that's very much in progress, but they were, it can answer that question a lot of patients ask, which is why is my pain persisting even when my quote unquote my blood work looks good, my imaging is good, my inflammatory markers are good. So this study again, it's still not conclusive yet, but they were looking at those again the circulating monocytes, and also they looked at uh quantitative sensory testing, like pressure, pain thresholds, temporal summation, and conditioned pain modulation. These are just notes I was taking. But I thought that was just really great that, again, instead of saying, well, like some patients have told me, well, my doctor said my inflammation markers are good, so therefore they can't do anything about my pain. We don't know what it is. They can actually say, okay, well, maybe let's explore why does this happen? Maybe if we can find a solution to it, it could have huge implications, not just for rheumatic disease, but also like fibromyalgia and general chronic pain. So that was really, really exciting. The other one, I thought you would like this one too, is and you were there, but the social, actually this might have been the last day where some of the people left earlier, but there was one from Dr. Ernest Vina called Mobilizing Hispanics with Knee Osteoarthritis Through Live Video Consultations, a dyad-based approach. That's when they they involved not just the patient in an exercise intervention, but they involved a caregiver or a loved one along with them. And it just showed that when you have a family or friend who can exercise like along with you, it's more
Mhm.
enjoyable. They're more likely to do it. It's more fun. And it was all done through telehealth, so it was accessible. So that was really exciting too.
Yeah, and, I'm looking through here also, and what's the other one I was looking at? The interleukin-15
Oh, yeah.
receptor.
Mhm.
Yeah, that one. Where's the other one? Immune intolerance, the impact of TCR signaling strength.
Whoa, I forgot that one.
Yeah, that one was Lin Shen, University of
Okay.
Chicago.
Okay.
And
Nice.
then where's the other one I was looking at? Gosh, there's so many here.
There was another one that was really straightforward, unusual because a lot of them weren't because they were complicated, but one was, the role of melanocytes in cutaneous and systemic lupus. So trying to figure out why people with lupus have increased UV sensitivity, and they said, whether you have light or dark skin, you have to wear sunscreen if you have lupus due to the increased UV sensitivity. So that was a good reminder because I think it's kind of unintuitive for some people to wear sunscreen if they have darker skin. Understandably, you'd be like, "Oh, I'm fine." But especially if you have lupus, you need to still wear sunscreen.
Absolutely, and that was a good one. I think I found the other one, the
Yeah.
antigen-specific T cell therapies,
Ooh, exciting.
developing more for rheumatic diseases and get rid of the antibodies. That was Maximilian Kong.
Okay, nice. Love the name.
I know, right? I mean, gosh, I was hoping that later my notes would make sense, and some of them do, and some of them don't.
Yeah. No, same, yeah.
But I think for people out there with lupus, there was so much information for lupus.
Yeah. It seemed
Eh,
like lupus had the most, research, and I think with some of the, staff at the Rheumatology Research Foundation that we got to chat with kind of put a few things in context. They said, like, certain years and certain periods of time, they have different research priorities. Like, for a while, the rheumatoid arthritis was a big research priority, and then there were so many advancements. Now they're looking more into lupus. I know Sjogren's is one where there's still
mhm.
no FDA approved, like, direct treatment for Sjogren's, and so, they sometimes, certain years see like a spurt of activity in one area versus another. And one of the other things we got to do, so we got to listen to the researchers present their updates, and then we also had it, the five of us or six of us patient advocates or room champions. We had a chance to do some roundtable discussions with the researchers and kind of ask additional questions or help give the patient voice. Help express our thoughts and questions about it. What I actually didn't get to talk to you after yours, I don't think. So was there any takeaways from your roundtable or any of the conversations you had with the researchers?
Yeah. So initially, I was supposed to sit down with Monica
Okay.
Guma to talk
Mhm.
about microbiome and metabolites. Butchering that word,
That's okay.
but that's
Metabolism.
actually not who I ended up sitting down with, and for the life of me, I cannot think of his name right now,
That's
but
okay.
it was a gentleman. I
Was so
think he
much
had gray
information.
I think he was tall with gray hair, that's about what I
Okay.
remember,
Okay. Yeah.
and, a lot of it was he was asking, questions about our lives and our diagnosis
Mm.
and what kinds of questions we have for rheumatologists. And one part of what we were talking about is how sometimes we patients, we don't tell them everything. And
Yeah.
we're all guilty of this at some time where we think, oh, well, this is not important at this time. We need to focus on this bigger thing. But
Mhm.
really, they want to hear all of it. They want to hear every little thing that's going on with us because even though it might seem small to us, that might give them answers they're looking for.
Yeah. It's so
Yeah.
hard in that short amount of time though to know what to prioritize, you know?
Mhm. Mhm. It's almost like we need to take really critical notes of everything that's going on with us
Mhm.
and bring it all to the table and say, okay, this might be nothing, but I feel like I should tell you just in case. And that's what he was saying is please bring that information to us, share it with us.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, I think, this was the first year that they invited patient room champions to come to the event. And I think that, we also did a little bit of like a focus group with some of the staff from the Research Foundation. And I think we had a lot of good feedback for them. I mean, obviously it was our
Mhm.
feedback, so we think it's good because it's what we thought they need to hear. But I think one of the things that I was looking at from or thinking, reflecting on from like the 20,000-foot view, as they say, is that, it's not so simple as just inviting patients to something. Like, you have to really think, what is the purpose? What do you want from them? And I'm not saying this in a critical way. I'm just saying I think there was a learning experience for everyone to say, okay, across all nonprofits and across of research organizations, there has been an increasing trend in saying we need patients to be involved. We want patients to be involved, right? What's the point in developing a research trial on an intervention if you don't even know if patients would actually ever use this intervention? That's not as applicable for things like medications because it's kind of like you take it or you don't. But if it's an intervention like we talked about the exercise one or the sunscreen one, if patients aren't interested in doing what you're trying to do in your research, then what's the point? So people are in trying to say, okay, we understand that if our whole goal is to improve the quality of life for patients, we need to involve them like every step of the way. Um, so we were able to the Rheumatology Research Foundation has a new website called Rheum Lab where they're trying to translate some of the advancements and research resources um into kind of patient friendly language. And we had some feedback that was like, okay, definitely this part works, this part doesn't work as well. But I felt like it was like intrinsically a positive experience just to know that they valued, our voice and they wanted us to be involved. Is that kind of how you felt too?
Absolutely. It almost felt like they had us on a pedestal. It was so strange. It was so
That's my
strange.
favorite place to be. No.
And to have them walk up to us and be like, "We've been following and listening to you," and blah, 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 and it
Yeah,
was like,
yeah.
I kinda looked around and I'm like, "Little old me?
Yeah.
Okay."
Oh my gosh. No, but it's true. Like it's like really it really is this disconnect sometimes between like the ivory tower, as they say, or like the real like quantitative research versus the qualitative. Our lives are qualitative. Like we may try to track our symptoms and get quantitative data, and that's important. But at the end of the day, we live in these, at least I'm speaking for myself, at least I live in like messy gray areas. People say simple questions the doctor might ask me. Do you think your medication's working? It's actually not easy to answer that unless it's very clearly working or very clearly not working. Like if it's like I'm in remission, yes, it's working. Everything's good. If I'm in a horrible flare up, no, it's not working. But there's this whole world in between, right? And I think a lot of times it's like a wake up call when we express that to researchers. Like I still don't know. 21 years into this is just time for us to go on our soapboxes. I'm not saying this to be like to make to sound incendiary or to complain. I literally don't know how to answer the question, what is your pain on a scale of 1 to 10? It is impossible for me to answer. Like it's like I always say it's like what color is love? Like I could give you an answer, it doesn't mean anything.
Exactly.
Unless my pain is a 1 or a 10, that answer just or maybe an 8, 9, 10, or 1, 2, 3, that answer is like impossible because there's so many different kinds of pain, right? There's so many. So I think that sometimes that researchers that they often are focused on this really tiny silo, like trying to figure out how these monocytes are doing something, right? Whereas we're like, hi, I'm just trying to like get through the day, so that's always like an interesting experience. Um, is there anything else that you wanted to touch on just about the experience? I put in one, sorry, I was gonna say, I put in one of my little write-up of like my takeaways, which is that, the patient voice matters. And that was, being able to meet the other advocates and connect to them. And we represented a huge spectrum of diagnoses, ages, gender, experience. That was really, really neat. But I think that's the only other one I didn't say yet. Is there anything else you wanted to share?
Just want to express that it was such a pleasure to meet all the people that we met and to see all the things and to be asked questions to make things better.
Mm,
And to talk about future collaborations and future options of things. And my hope is that we get to go again next year and that maybe it's even bigger and better. Maybe invite more patients. Maybe let's double it. Let's make it 10 or 12 people.
yeah,
A-
yeah.
And and yeah, the exciting thing is you got me to finally join the whole Twitter X
Oh,
space.
yeah.
I did have a typo in my name in the beginning. I got it fixed 2
Oh,
days
you fixed it,
later.
good. Okay, okay.
Yes, yes, it had me as Gravely Jen instead of Gracefully.
I
I was
remember
like,
that, yeah.
but I went and found a lot of the researchers and the rheumatologists that we met, and now I get to follow them and hear more of their exciting information. So I love that. And yeah,
Yeah.
I look forward to the future. I look forward to when they actually get to fully present their stuff, to finally have
Mhm.
it out there and being used. That will be exciting to watch.
Yeah, it's really, really cool to be able to have a peek into the in progress research. And then,
Mhm.
yeah, maybe in 2025, 2026, we'll see some of this. So the way the research process, we might see it at the conference, presented as like a finished peer reviewed journal article, so, you
Mhm.
know, um, a lot of times as patients, we might hear about new advancements in rheumatology through like an article on, the Arthritis Foundation or Creaky Joints or the Rheumatology Research Foundation, and you don't necessarily see all the blood, sweat, and tears that went into that, research. So, I was just thinking back, this is just again kind of a related thought, but what it must have been like in like the early 2000s and maybe even late 90s as they were developing these first biologics for rheumatoid arthritis and how exciting that must have been. Because just like I was saying, there's no FDA approved medicines for Sjogren's right now. There weren't medicines other than methotrexate that were like super targeted to rheumatoid arthritis before the TNF inhibitors like Enbrel, Humira, Remicade came out, and then they came out with the other classes and JAK inhibitors and different kinds of inhibitors. And who knows, maybe we're on the cusp of some new, you know, new new medication options, because even though these medications have really changed the trajectory for the majority of patients, there's still too many that are in that kind of difficult to treat category where they don't get full remission, unfortunately. So I think that covers the rheumatology research experience. But yeah, it's in progress. Stay tuned. And I loved your point about Twitter, because that is why I'm on Twitter mostly, is connecting with other researchers like rheumatologists. And there seems to be a lot of doctors that are very active on Twitter that aren't really comfortable on camera, so to speak. Like they don't necessarily have Instagram or TikTok or like Facebook accounts. So yay. So let's go on to the rapid fire questions. So and then maybe because maybe your answers might have changed since, I had you on episode 98. So maybe they're the same. That's okay too. So what are your best or some of your best words of wisdom for newly diagnosed patients?
Okay. So one thing I always tell people is you still have value. You still have so much to offer. So just be careful getting stuck and mourning the life that you once had, because it's great for us to be upset. We need to share our feelings and to mourn, but at the same
Mhm.
time, put a time limit on that. put a time limit because you still have so much of a life to live, people that need you, and you have value in this world. So set a time limit.
I love that. I love that. Do you have a favorite arthritis gadget or tool in your toolbox?
I have several, and it's probably going to be the same ones I mentioned last time.
Yeah, it's okay. That's okay.
But I love my Kitchen Mama can opener.
Mhm, mhm.
Everyone that I've shared it with, showed it to, everyone loves it. My husband loves my can opener, and I even have their other tool. I can't think of what it's called, but it's that multi-gadget
The
one. I
mo
think you have it too.
Yeah, it looks like the package makes it look like a little, like, parrot or something. It's like a mouth, the toucan. Yeah, the toucan shaped multi-opener. Yeah, that's a really
Yeah,
good
yeah.
one.
That's a good one. The Jiffy Twist, that one's
Yes.
excellent. Don't forget, I don't have them on right now because my hands are doing okay, but my Grace and Abel compression
Yep, yep.
gloves. I want them to come out with socks or ankle
Oh,
things, or
yes,
I
yes.
I should mention that to her, although I'm sure many people mention that to her.
No,
I don't want to be that annoying person, but their
no,
gloves
no.
are so great. I would love to see them on my feet.
I love it. Yeah,
I don't know about you, but when I travel, my ankles tend to swell.
yep. I almost I forgot to send you a picture because when I went to New York for my, college reunion, I was at one point, literally laid on the ground under a bench and had my feet, like, up on the bench after just walking around all day, and I was like, "I have to get let my swelling go down." My feet also kinda swell, especially on the airplane, but I bought some compression gloves, I can't remember the name of the brand on the top of my head, but they're really cute. They're like, they're I think it's from Not Your Grandma's UK, is that it? Um, yeah, Not Your Grandma's UK compression socks. They have super, super cute ones, and that's just a cute
Ooh.
name. Yeah,
Okay, I'm gonna have to check that out.
I'll put that in the chat, but I'll also put it in the show notes. Do you have a favorite book or movie or show you've been watching recently or reading?
Mm, I don't know about recently,
Yes,
but
okay.
my favorite movie is The Holiday.
Oh, I just watched that for the first time this year.
Oh, it's my favorite movie.
That's
It's
awesome. That's
it's so
so
good.
good.
It's so good. But there is a show I've been watching with my mother-in-law. It is called Wildfire.
Oh, I don't know that one.
It is from the early 2000s. I think it came out
Okay.
around 2006, 7, 8, somewhere around there.
Okay.
And it's a girl and a horse. She had been
Aw,
in jail for stealing a car, I think it was what it was. And anyway, she gets involved in horses and becomes a jockey.
that's
So
amazing.
kind of a fun show to watch. But I have so many favorites, and of course, books. I could go on for hours. I love Ellen Hildebrand.
Oh,
Her books are good.
yes.
It's kind of fun. I like rom-com type of things.
Yeah, me too. Oh, so good. Do you have a favorite mantra or inspirational saying?
Ooh. I mean, probably "You are enough" is what I say a lot. A
Mm,
lot, a lot.
mhm, mhm. I say that too. That and you can do hard or we can do hard things or I'm doing hard things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a
Mhm.
good one. What does it mean to you to live a good life and thrive with rheumatoid arthritis?
Ooh,
That's hard.
it means to be doing the very best I can be, to be feeling my very best and doing all the things, even if they are still a little bit tough, still getting up and hiking and bike riding. And I mean, I'm not going to go join a roller derby team like I once wanted to, but
Mm.
it means waking up and still finding ways to enjoy the life I have.
Oh, that's really beautiful. Is there anything else you wanna share with the audience before we wrap up?
Oh gosh.
No. Soapbox time, that's what I was saying.
Um, Oh, I do have some exciting news I wouldn't mind sharing.
Yeah.
So this is hopefully happening in July, but I don't know if you know the girl that runs Rare,
Oh, yeah,
but
yeah.
okay, so she's amazing and so sweet. Well, she happened to notice that my friend Megan from It's Meg's Fitness, that
Mhm,
we run a support group,
mhm.
and it's nothing like yours. Ours is not like
Oh,
a
that's okay.
teaching one. Not
Mhm.
ours is strictly like let's get together and talk and lift each other up.
Yeah, that's great.
But so she reached out to me and invited us to be moderators and run it on the Cabana app.
Whoa, cool.
Yeah, so that's going to be happening soon. We're going to be making a schedule, doing a little giveaway so people can win, some stickers and some shirts and stuff like that for coming. And so that's kind of our
Oh,
fun thing
great.
coming up.
Well, and I think, you bring up a point that support group is it's an open term, or how would you put it? Like it's an umbrella term, and it could refer to so many different things. There's Alcoholics Anonymous, which is run a certain way. There's support groups that are, completely asynchronous, and they're a Facebook group that's called like a rheumatoid arthritis support group. There's support groups that are in person. There's support groups that are like mine, where I call it like an educational support group with Room to Thrive, where we spend some time kind of delving in and answering questions about specific lessons that I've taught in the self-paced program. But then we also have open support, what's going on, what's wins, fails, and vents. It's what I call, the general
Yeah.
group discussion. And then you have other kinds where it's purely social support, where you just, there's just so many different kinds. And so I think, I would say almost like with therapy, if you've had a good or bad experience with one therapist, don't let it turn you off from all of the possibilities. The same with a support group. Some people say, oh, I tried a support group and I hated it. That's just one support group that you've tried, and I feel like a car salesman or something. But I'm saying it because, yeah, sorry.
Well, and I think an important thing for people to think about is maybe it just wasn't the one for you, or
Exactly.
maybe you weren't putting in the effort. And I feel bad saying that, but
Mm.
sometimes we are the ones holding ourselves back. Are we getting
Mm.
involved? Are we trying to speak up? Or are we the ones sitting there hiding against the wall? And
You may not be ready
so
yet, and that's okay too. Maybe you tried and you weren't ready, and then you came back a year later, and now you were ready,
absolutely. Absolutely. And maybe it takes time to just show up and listen to everyone else before you are comfortable sharing. And that's okay
Mhm.
too. And so
Mhm.
the way this one is set up, it started out as a mindset group, is what we called it at the time.
Yeah.
And we still do some of that. And so we do some mindset mentoring for some of the sessions that we get together. And once in a while, we do a fun event. We've had little Christmas parties where we played some games and stuff. We've done
Oh,
a paint
fun.
one where everybody came and we painted cards that we mailed to each other for Valentine's Day.
That's
So you never know what you're going to get with us. Sometimes we're
I love
painting
that.
and crafting, and sometimes we're just visiting and catching each other up on our lives.
Well, that's beautiful. And I'll definitely include a link to that in the show notes. And where else can people find you online?
I primarily my happy place is over on Instagram,
Yep.
but I do have my Gracefully Jen stuff and the My Spoonie Sisters stuff over on Facebook, and I also have a website for My Spoonie Sisters where I share blogs and share the podcast, My Spoonie
Mhm.
Sisters. And where else can you find me? Oh my gosh, I'm all over the place.
You're all over
Twitter,
it.
YouTube, you'll see me.
Yeah, and I'll put links in the show notes for sure. It's just in case someone has their phone out and they're like, I want to follow her right now before I forget. That's often me. So, well, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you've been super busy. We both had a really busy spring with travel and other events. So I appreciate you taking the time. This was your idea. You were like, we should record a podcast kind of debriefing our experience at the
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, and so, at the investigators meeting, and, I think research can seem like such an intimidating topic to people, like research, I have to have a PhD to, like, talk about that, but hopefully we've made it sound a little bit more accessible. So thank you again, and we'll talk to you later, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much. It was my pleasure.
Yay, bye-bye for now.
Bye.